Recording. Hey. All right, Jenny, you ready to do this?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, we're going to share our screen here. And we are talking about summative assessments. Woohoo! So those assessments that come at the end, either the end of a unit, end of a chapter, end of whatever period of time that you've been working on a particular standard. This is the summative assessment. We've already been doing the formative, and now this is the heavy lifting. This is where it matters. This is where it goes in the grade book, and that's what we're talking about. So I'm Adriana Vargas, IC at Rancho Verde High School, and I am working today with
Prom Shaper, IC at Vista Verde Middle School.
Awesome. So here we go. All right, and forgive me, let me put on our captions. So here we go. Oh, this is me. Okay, so formative versus summative. Really quickly, we already heard from our colleagues last week all about formative assessment. So you got loads of ideas on how to take a temperature check and figure out, check for understanding, see if your students are with you or not. And that's your choice if you want to put formative assessments in the grade book. But formative is little by little, repetitive, as you go, you are checking for understanding. What we want to add to that is whatever you're using for your formative assessments, that is the same thing you should be using for summative. So thinking with the goal in mind, if you are going to if you're planning on doing a summative assessment, the big assessment that comes at the end, that goes in the grade book, if you're planning to do that on, let's say, Google Forms, then your formative assessments should also be on Google Forms. You should be treating just like you're planning on playing. So if I'm going to assess them in a summative assessment on Google Forms, or formative, in a project, in a slide, whatever it is, your formative assessments should be that same thing, so that your students are practicing, and it's just rep after rep after rep, feedback, and then at the end, on the one that really matters, they're so used to doing this, they're going to be rock stars on your summative assessment, and you're going to be happy because they did well, and they're going to be happy because they did well also.
Excellent. So we all know in distance learning, it's limiting in some ways how we do our summative assessment. So here's some of the resources we have that a lot of teachers are already using. This is just a few. We know there's a lot of other great ones out there that you guys are all implementing and using. But again, if I know that my summative is going to be on, let's say, EDUMs, then my formatives as well should be on there. Not all, you don't have to put them all on there, we know that, but at least so that the kids are familiar, the platform's familiar to them, so they're ready to go. There's nothing overwhelming about it. Again, there's a lot of great resources out there that you guys are already using, just keeping in mind that students should be practicing on their formative in the same application as their summative.
The big question in everyone's mind, especially during distance learning, is cheating. I want to give my students perhaps a test that I've already created. I've already created it, it's done, but maybe that test is multiple choice, or maybe that test is fill in the blank. The fact is, people, this is right next to us all the time. It's right next to us, and it's right next to your students. If we're giving students the same multiple choice or fill in the blank or short answer question that we've always given, it's too easy to go ahead and take a snapshot, text it to a friend, and boom, now everybody has the answers. So truly, in this video, what we'd like to encourage you to think about is really having the summative assessment where you're truly testing, did they learn it or did they not? Have students create, analyze, explain, compose, evaluate in some way that they create and apply their learning to something. Of course, you can use all of the resources that we've already talked about, right? Google Forms, EDUMs, formative, quizzes, but use those and have them do open-ended questions where they have to write, they have to compose, they have to create. Because if it's just a matter of getting answers, they'll get the answers from each other. And then we're not actually testing whether or not they learned the specific learning targets that we want them to learn. And again, keeping in mind that whatever it is that we're going to have them complete compose or explain or create on the summative, they should be explaining, creating, and composing those same things in the formative assessments. And once it does go, when we do start talking about grading, having a rubric that they're aware of, that they know this is how I'm going to be grading, this is what an A looks like, this is what a B looks like, and what are those things that have to be included in the rubrics that I can be successful, and do the students know that ahead of time?
All right, so here's some examples of ways that we are already having our students create. A lot of teachers are already implementing portfolios. I'm really having the students show what they know, apply their knowledge, projects, project-based learning, PBLs, all those different things we're already working through as a district. Really looking at those 21st century skills that we can have students apply their content knowledge through. Presentations, our students have all these resources. They are amazing with technology, unlike some of us. Letting them show what they know through a presentation, writing, giving, the argumentative writing piece, the DBQ, and having common language and common applications that the students can use to really show what they know. It's going to go a long way with the students. And finally, of course, EduProtocols.
Yes, so consider perhaps you wanting to use an EduProtocol as your formative and then later your summative assessment. If you are having your students do a Frayer model where you're taking a concept or a word and dissecting it into smaller pieces, or if they're going to do a thin slide or a fast and curious or an 8-part, or there's a lot of EduProtocols, and maybe this might be the first time that you're hearing about these, but absolutely practice, rep after rep after rep. They do it every day. Every day they're doing a Frayer model on one new word, on one new concept, or every day they're doing a thin slide on a new concept or on a character or on a word problem. Then when it comes to the summative, you give them that same EduProtocol, but they're just doing it on a different concept and they're doing it without your help. Anyways, and to speak more about how you might use EduProtocols on your summative assessments, or just the idea of however you're going to do summative assessments, your formative assessments before that should be practicing and drilling that same concept. Here with us to explain more on that is JON CORIPPO himself. He is one of the authors of the EduProtocol book. And take it away, John.
Hey everybody, I've never really done one of these. I'm talking in my car videos before, so I'm excited about this. Hey, I just wanted to say a few things about assessment that I've learned in over a quarter century of being in education, working in probably 4 different districts and seeing the patterns that emerge in districts. And the first thing I would tell all of you in this setting, the first best thing is right from Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. If I want my kids to be able to write a paragraph or make a presentation or be able to do mathematics, we're going to rep and we're going to rep and we're going to rep. And I'm going to make sure that the context of the daily work is the same as what my formative and summative, they need to match, right? And then the big thing with protocols is you take a math rep or an 8 parts or a sentence parts or even a mini report. You can have the kids do it over and over again and you just change the question. Your prep is very low, the cognitive load is very low, and then when you get time to assess, now I'm going to bring in a George Patton quote, fight like you train, train like you fight. So when my kids, when it came time for their 6th, 7th, and 8th graders to do their grammar assessment, it was the same exact thing we've been doing for the last 4 weeks. It was 8 parts. But I made it fun by saying, hey, pick your own picture, make it funny. And the kids said, can it be a meme or a GIF? And I was like, oh yeah. And they were like, this is so great. And yet it was the end of the quarter assessment. Most of my kids were done in 14 or 15 minutes. They did better than I thought, and they were super excited. So remember, you don't have to have an assessment that's different than your daily work, especially if you're using protocols. All you have to do is change the question. Imagine this. Do any part of osmosis you want to learn about or share. Make your own Iron Chef on something from chapter 4. So you can really, really easily match the cognitive load and the work to the work you've been doing in class every day. And guess what? You don't need to make a different assessment. You just need to ask a different question. Have a great semester, and I'm here if you guys ever need input, advice, or even if you have pushback. JCoRIPPO@gmail.com.